You see them everywhere, right? Arguments are all around us, in ads, on the news, all over social media. But how do you tell when an argument that sounds really convincing is actually, well, built on nothing? That's what we're doing today. We're putting together a field guide for spotting faulty arguments.
So, have you ever heard something like this, or maybe even said it yourself? I mean, it seems totally logical. Event A happens, then event B happens. Our brains are just wired to connect those dots and say, aha, they must be related.
But hang on a second. Is it really the update? What if you've got a dozen apps running in the background, or maybe your phone's storage is completely full? Questioning that first easy conclusion, that's the first step into the world of critical thinking.
So, this kind of thing, this little error in reasoning, it actually has a name. We call it a fallacy. Think of it as a mistake in logic, a weak link in the chain that can bring a whole argument crashing down. And that last part right there is the key, if unnoticed. That's what makes fallacies so tricky. They often look like really good, really solid arguments. They're sneaky and they're persuasive, especially if you're not paying close attention. And here's something you gotta know. Sometimes people use them on purpose to try and persuade you, but just as often, they're just honest mistakes. They pop up from our own biases or maybe just a little bit of carelessness. Okay, so to really get a handle on this, it helps to split them into two big groups. This is kind of the first major division in our field guide. You've got your formal fallacies and your informal fallacies. And this is a fantastic way to think about it. A formal fallacy means the problem is in the structure. The blueprint for the house is just wrong. The logic itself doesn't work. But an informal fallacy, that's a problem with the content, the materials. The blueprint might look fine, but you're building with shoddy materials. And we're going to focus on those informal ones because honestly, those are the ones you'll bump into every single day. All right, it's time to go hunting for some of the most common culprits out there. And I promise you, once you learn how to spot these, you'll start seeing them everywhere. You won't be able to unsee them. First up is an absolute classic, and it takes us right back to that slow phone example. It's often called the false cause fallacy, but it has a much fancier official name. Post hoc ergo propter hoc. I know, it's a mouthful of Latin, but it literally just means after this, therefore because of this. And that phrase describes the entire flawed idea perfectly. It's a tempting little shortcut for our brains, but it's so often wrong. Here's another perfect example. You ate the sandwich, then you got sick. It's easy to blame the sandwich, but what about the salad you ate yesterday or that breakfast burrito? The key lesson here, and it's a big one, is that correlation is not causation. Just because two things happen in a row doesn't mean one caused the other. Okay, next up, we have one you will see constantly, especially in political debates and online arguments. Get ready for the straw man fallacy. So here's how this one works. Instead of actually dealing with what your opponent is saying, you create a straw man, a really weak, distorted, or oversimplified version of their argument. And then you knock that down. It makes you look like you won, but you never even touched their real point. This is just a textbook straw man. Person A says something reasonable, right? Invest more in public transit. Person B completely ignores that and twists it into this extreme, ridiculous idea of banning all cars. It's so much easier to argue against that absurd position than to actually discuss transit funding. And our final example for today is another one you've probably heard a million times. It's the good old slippery slope. The idea here is that if we allow one small thing to happen, we're going to start sliding down this slippery slope, and we won't be able to stop until we land in some horrible, catastrophic situation. It's an argument that plays on our fears by claiming a tiny first step will trigger a disastrous chain reaction. You see the chain reaction here, right? It goes from one tiny action, letting a student retake one quiz, and jumps straight to the absolute worst-case scenario, the total collapse of education. It skips all the logical steps in between and just presents this terrifying outcome as inevitable. So we've spotted a few of these arguments in the wild, but so what? Why does this actually matter in your day-to-day life? Well, because this isn't just some academic game. This is a crucial part of your critical thinking toolkit. At its core, this skill is about empowerment. It lets you cut through all the noise and persuasive language to see what an argument is really made of. Is the logic solid, or are you just being sold a story built on a shaky foundation? And believe me, you will find these
everywhere. From political ads trying to get your vote to commercials trying to sell you something you don't need, fallacies are one of the biggest tools in the persuasion toolbox. Being able to spot them is like having a mental shield. And let's just circle back to this one more time because it's so important. Fallacies work because they're designed to fool us. They sound so reasonable on the surface, playing on our emotions and our mental shortcuts. That's what makes them so powerful. Ultimately, that's the whole point of this. It's about learning to look past the shiny, persuasive wrapping paper and see what's actually inside the box. It's about being able to tell the difference between what just appears to be true and what is true. So there you have it, the beginnings of your very own field guide for spotting faulty arguments, like the false cause, the straw man, and the slippery slope. This is more than just a neat trick. It's a critical thinking superpower. So the only question left is, what will you do with it?